What's going on, my fellow Jedi and Padawans? Welcome back to another Jedi gaming video. Thank you guys so much for coming back to the channel. If you guys are new, welcome. As you can see, we are going over everything coming in December 7th, 30th anniversary pack inside of Destiny 2. Now, this is my second time recording because everything got corrupted, so I'm going to try to make this as quick as possible. We are going over about 6 twabs in one, going over everything new. So within the 30th anniversary pack, we are getting a nice new dungeon inspired by the Cosmodrome loot cave. It's going to have a lot of good loot in there, and we also get that nice sexy thorn armor from the top. Next off, we have a nice free 6-player matchmaking activity. We will be able to get a lot of rewards from this as well. Entire seasons usually have one of these, and we are getting a second one within Season of the Lost. So we are getting a bunch of new content. This is going to be super fun to grind. So next off, we have the Moments of Triumph 2021. You complete certain activities and triumphs, and then you can collect your seal and title. There's also some nice loot associates with it, like this emblem, a ghost, and a nice sparrow. We also have these nice IRL stuff, a strange coin, a t-shirt, and then the seal / pin that you get from completing the 2021 Moment of Triumphs. Now, some quick extra things that we are getting before we get into the thick of it with all the weapon changes and ability changes. So we are getting our god tier rocket launcher back in the exotic Galahorn. This will be in some type of exotic quest, so it'll be super fun to grab this and see if it slaps like it did back in D1. We are also going to be able to grind out nice emotes, sparrows, ghost shells, iconic weapons like the 1,000-yard stare, Elsa Luna hand cannon, the Myth Claymore sword, and then also a marathon shotgun. There will be a couple exotic ships and sparrows, as well as this nice sexy armor that we have right here. This is the marathon set. We also have the thorn set that you can see right here. And finally, this nice 30th anniversary Bungie armor. Definitely copping the hunter one. All right, so now getting into the thick of it with a bunch of weapon changes, perk changes, mod changes. So first off, we don't have to spend glimmer anymore on slotting mods on your armor and your guns. Used to take about 500 glimmer and a little extra resources like legendary shards or something like that. That's all going away, so you will be able to instantly swap mods on your armor and stuff without having to spend materials. That being said, we're going to go over weapons first, followed by perks, and then lastly mods. First off, as you can see right here, shotguns, they are getting a little change in PvE. So slug shotguns are getting a reduced damage in PvE by about 10%, and then pellet PvE shotguns are getting a damage increase of about 10%. Moving on to linear fusions. Across the board, PvE damage is going up by 10%. Caster swords, so like your solar scar, stuff like that throws out a projectile, your heavy attack ammo cost goes down from 8 bolts to 5 of your ammo. Next off are bows. Increased damage by roughly 10% for rank and file enemies. So those rank and file enemies are the red bar enemies. Next off, we have sidearms and fusions. So these have had a little trouble based on your frame rate when they are not hit scan. So hit scan means wherever you're pointing is just going to be a straight line based on projectile speed, and it'll hit like that. So sidearms and fusion rifles seem to be laggy on the server where it wouldn't totally collect all the damage if you had certain FPS going on. So they increase projectile speed from 999 to 9,999 to make it hit scan no matter what your frame rate is. Next, we're going over exotic weapons that are changing. So Vex Mythoclast, reduced aim assist by 25, reduced the linear fusion mode aim assist cone from 1.1 to 1.05, so you're going to have a little bit less stickiness on that aim assist when you're shooting it in the linear fusion mode. And then it now requires 3 eliminations for fully overcharged instead of 2, and that was mostly in Crucible when you killed Guardians. Now next, the Fighting Lion has an exotic perk which allows certain things with your damage buff. So right here, it removed the multi-hit requirement. So any damage you deal with this weapon will proc that buff. Increase the buff reload stat from 50 to 70, so you will be reloading faster if you do any damage with this weapon. And then it increased the buff duration to 7 seconds. Next, we have Arbalist, which is sweet. It's getting an intrinsic anti-barrier feature on it, so this might be viable in some of the later GMs and stuff like that. Next off, the classic Sleeper Simulant. This thing is getting a nice little PvE damage boost by 6%, and we are also getting a magazine size increase from 3 to 4. So hopefully after particle deconstruction goes away, some of the linear fusions will still be viable, but especially Sleeper and like like 1k will definitely still be a viable exotic to use. So Suros Regime, it has a couple additional features that are being added to its current effect in the dual mode receiver. So you get plus 30 range and plus 3 zoom in this mode. Next we got the sidearm, the Stasis sidearm Cryothesia 77k. So it removed the variable trigger now, so it fires on presses kind of like your normal fusion rifle, letting it charge up instead of having to hold it and release it, so it feels more responsive. Next we have a charge shot. It moves to the special reload, so kind of like Symmetry or your Adderceptor. When you hold your reload button, it'll switch to the alternate fire mode, and you get this by getting final blows with the sidearm. Now the charge shot used to take your entire magazine, and now it will not take the entire magazine, and your sidearm automatically converts back to the standard trigger pull one shot. That charge shot also now causes an AoE freeze against AI, so all of your combatants in like PvE, and then it slows players. The direct hit will freeze still, but it slows players around them instead of freezing everybody in a little area. Next off, we have the Leviathan's Breath exotic bow. The catalyst now grants Archer's Tempo in addition to the other effects, which Archer's Tempo is one of the best perks for a bow. The more headshots you get, the quicker you can pull it back. Next off, we have a classic, Whisper of the Worm. Reduced delay on activating whispered breathing from the catalyst, all the way down from 2.1 seconds to 1.2, so that's a big change right there. The White Nail magazine refill change was 3 from the inventory, but now it pulls 2 from your inventory and 1 from thin air, so you're wasting less bullets on that nice reload. And then it is also getting a nice 10% damage increase in PvE. Another exotic sniper right here, we have the Darcy. So it reduces flinch, recoil, and accuracy degradation by 50% while Personal Assistant is activated. That's the exotic perk on Darcy. Personal Assistant now has a 1-second delay before deactivating when off the target, as it was instant. So as soon as you moved off a target, Personal Assistant went away. Now we have that nice little 1-second delay. Might not seem like a lot, but in gaming, 1 second can be forever. Lastly, we have a nice damage increase again in PvE by 20%. Malfeasance, one of my favorite hand cannons in the game, is getting a nice increase to damage explosion by 50%. So when you shoot a bunch of those bolts that the Malfeasance fires and they attach to an enemy, they do explode, and now that's getting a 50% damage increase. Not sure why they're changing too much with Dead Man's Tale, because it is pretty crazy on both mouse and keyboard and controller, but they're saying that this will mostly be for controller, even though there will be slight effects on mouse and keyboard. So increased reticle friction fall off distance, no effect on mouse and keyboard, so that just means you're going to have a little stickier aim assist on controller at farther distance. Less recoil, reduced effect on mouse and keyboard, improved accuracy, reduced effect on mouse and keyboard. This thing is already almost impossible to miss when you're hip firing it, and it doesn't have that much recoil, so I'm not sure what these changes are, but we'll see how overpowered DMT really gets. It's pretty crazy right now in my personal opinion. Next we got Heir Apparent Catalyst. This thing, if you use this in PvP, you just shouldn't. It's absolute the biggest cheese in the entire game. So no effect in PvE here, but in PvP, the reduced damage resistance against players from 75% to 25%. So that nice blue shield that you're only doing like 3 damage on when you shoot it with a hand cannon, that's gonna go up a little bit, but I still think this thing is gonna be absolutely ridiculous in PvP. Next off, we have the nice new Lawrence Driver exotic linear fusion rifle. Removed ability energy regeneration when picking up that telemetry. So when you got a kill, it dropped like a little bolt and you picked it up, and now you don't get ability energy regeneration on those telemetry pickups. Lastly, for our exotics, we got the Traveler's Chosen sidearm. Now grants 10% ability regen per stack on the activation when you consume those stacks. It used to be more generous on low stacks and less generous on high stacks, and now it averages out. You also only get 2 stacks from killing a Guardian instead of 3, so you will have to do a little bit more damage and more defeats in PvP to get those full stacks procced. Alright, so next we're going over these perks here. Adrenaline Junkie. Interesting for this one. Eliminations with weapons can add single damage stacks or extend the existing one, so this is all about grenade damage. Grenade eliminations boost the stacks immediately to ×5, and it lowered the duration to compensate for weapon activation. So when you get grenade kills, you will be able to do a lot more damage with your weapons. Vorpal weapon is getting a little change. It used to be 15% on all weapons. Now it's 10% damage increase on heavies, 15% damage increase on specials, and 20% on primaries. There's no change to damage in players in their super. Next off, we got Whirlwind Blade, which is a huge thing for like falling guillotine and swords. You have to hit the enemy now 10 times instead of 5 to get maximum damage before you do your spin. So you do 10 light attacks and then a heavy and you will get max damage. Lastly, right here for perks, we have Pulse Monitor. Now this changes the threshold activation from 90% health to 30% shield. So you have to take less damage now by about 40%. So you won't have to lose that white bar over your health until this activates. Next right here, we have mod changes. So Quick Axis Sling, which was pretty much only on bows in all seriousness. It was plus 100 handling plus this little math equation with a 0.4 seconds after running out of ammo. Now it is just that 0.9 times the ready stow time all the time. You don't have to have that 0.4 seconds after running out of ammo. It's just procced all the time now. This change also applies to the swap mag perk, as they are the same perk behind the scenes. Next, we have this nice new mod called Full Auto Retrofit. So you will be able to have this mod and throw it on usable legendary hand cannons, sidearms, scout rifles, and pulse rifles, and it makes them automatically, when you throw this mod on, full auto. So it can't go on exotics, but kind of interesting, it'll make it shoot at its most efficient rate when you have this on a legendary hand cannon, sidearm, or scout rifle, or pulse rifle. Before we get into all the ability changes, we're going to go over these nice 2 changes to exotics right here. Dune Marchers, thank the Lord. Once a player is hit by Dune Marchers, the lightning chain, they cannot hit by Dune Marchers for 2 seconds. So this will help stop that stupid double chain off of a dead body where you haven't done any damage and then all of a sudden you die. So now Dune Marchers lightning now only change off of live targets. Also just so crazy, so nice. You're not going to get absolutely bombasted from a mile away with a double chain. Now Icefall Mantles, Stasis Overshield can now be canceled by pressing your class ability input more than once. So like your shield, whatever button you use for that, you press it more than once and you can cancel that overshield so you get your movement back. So now for the biggest changes coming to abilities, it's going to make Destiny way more gun skill and way less about just camping and waiting for your abilities to come back, your supers. So cooldowns are changing. There is so much going on. So first off, we are going to take a look at these couple examples and then go over actually all the changes that are happening. So as you can see right here, we have 2 different ways that they are actually changing stuff. So our Flux Grenade, it's increased base cooldown time from 82 seconds to 182 seconds. So that's a long time, but it has increased attached detonation damage from 150 to 250, so it will one-shot kill in PvP. Increased damage versus PvE contents by 15% on top of the base damage increase. It removed tracking when you throw it. There is a small amount of aim assist though when you are throwing. It's increased throwing speed by 117%, just specifically on this grenade, and now it sticks to all surfaces, not just Guardians. So on the flip side here, we have the Firebolt grenade. Its cooldown went from 82 seconds to 64, but it's going to do less damage from 90 to 65 on people in PvP, but it has increased damage in PvE by 15%, which they are just changing grenades in general for PvE with a little bit more damage. So that's just kind of a basis of what we're doing, and we will go over all the changes. So a lot of these changes are coming in preparation for the light subclass changes to the 3.0 system like Stasis currently has. Now, like I said, we've increased grenade damage versus all PvE contents by 15% or more. So that just means grenades in PvE are going to be more effective, and then we have all these different cooldowns that are going to be happen based on the different grenade types. So you will be able to throw some more often than others based on their damage output and certain changes. All right, so next off right here, we are going to go over some super changes. We have a lot of super regeneration that the passive component of it is going to be scaled down. So you have super less often. So you're not just sitting in the back of maps, especially in Crucible, just waiting with 100 intellect for your super to happen. It's going to cause you to play more aggressive and actually do damage with your weapons. So in PvE, super uptime should be relatively unchanged from the live game, if not slightly higher. So PvE is going to be a little bit better with your supers, actually. It states right here that everybody should get at least one super in a 6v6 match if it goes to score or time, and they are engaged in regular combat. Like I said, it's preventing people from just camping and getting their supers passively. So supers are going to be less often in the 3v3 modes, so like Trials and Survival, it's going to be way less about super spams and getting like 4 per game if you have super high intellect and getting a lot of kills. So the way that you will be able to get back your supers faster is by doing damage with your weapons. As it says right here, primary weapons should have the most noticeable benefit for super energy regeneration. So it says right here, outgoing primary weapon damage has a significantly higher return of super energy per damage point than any other damage type. So if you're doing damage with your primary weapon, you will be getting super faster than if you're just running around shotgunning people. As you see right here, it says different supers should come online at different times in a given match based on your super of choice and how quickly it regenerates. They have a little tier list below going over which supers will have the fastest regens and which will have the lowest. So as you can see right here, here are our super regeneration tiers. So our Well of Radiance will be the fastest regeneration, followed by Blade Barrage and Silence and Squall. At tier 3, we have Shadow Shot, Burning Maul, Arc Staff, Nova Bomb, and Thunder Crash. Tier 2, Golden Gun, Chaos, Nova Warp, Storm Trance, Daybreak, and Sentinel Shield. And then our slowest regeneration right here, we got good old Fist of Havoc, Spectral Blades, Hammer of Soul, Glacial Quake, and Winter's Wrath. Now, I'm not sure why Silence and Squall is all the way up top. I guess it's not that great of a super. It was definitely more of a Shatter Dive thing, but we will be going over that in 1 second here. Before we go on, I just want to iterate this right here. We have tuned PvP energy regeneration separately from their PvE values, which are not changing. So a lot of these are going to be strictly PvP based, making the game so much smoother and less ability spam, because Crucible is just a mess. So all of these perks that you see right here, Whisper of Sharks, Arc Web, Rising Storm, Iconic Traces, those are getting a roughly 50% decrease in ability regeneration as well. So these are your grenades and your fragments and certain perks for certain subclasses that help you regen your grenades, etc. like that. Next, we have our in-super perks. So right here, our Everlasting Fire in Dawnblade Warlock, and then our Trample in our Striker Titan. They will return less energy when we are getting kills with them in PvP compared to PvE. That's really about the same as it was. Next, we have exotic armor pieces that are changing because they would give us certain aspects of the game that allowed us to regen, whether it be our super, grenade, or melee faster, even our class ability. So let's go over those. Frosty no longer stacks multiplicably in PvP with other regenerative buffs. So it is now an additive scaler. So that just means when you're running, you're going to get your super a little bit less and to regen those buffs. So when you are using the Frosties in PvP, it's not going to regen your abilities nearly as fast. Heart of the Innermost Light ability energy regeneration scaler reduced by 50% in PvP. Controversial holds for that grenade on Warlocks. The duration of your regeneration buff is no longer random between 1 and 4 seconds and now has a fixed duration of 1.5 seconds. Reduced grenade energy regeneration scaler by 50% again. This regeneration buff right here is just to make it more consistent throughout the game. Next, we got our Doomfang Palindrones. Reduce super energy gained on activation when opposing player is killed by a void melee by 50%. So this isn't restoring any super ability when we are in PvP really, but there's no change for PvE, so you can still use your Doomfang Palindrones to have a lot of that void bottom tree super for Titans. Shinobi's Vow, which is super great. Reduce grenade energy gain on players by 66%, so you can't just spam those grenades on your Shinobi's Vow. Next, we got Crown of Tempest. Grenade, melee, and super energy is going down from 7 seconds to 4 seconds, so you're just going to get less of that regeneration for duration of time wise. The Stag Helmet, reduced class ability energy refund on your shield breaks when you were standing in it by 50%. Once again, no PvE changes. Like I said, a lot of these are only for PvP, which is super ideal. Next right here, we have our armor mods, which they all have a reduced energy return by roughly 50% in PvP. These are what you are looking for, so I'm not going to read all of them, but all of these mods got that reduced ability regen by like 50%. So next right here, we have a Stasis crystal change, which is amazing. It won't be as concerning for PvE the way that they are changing it. So Stasis crystals, while forming, Stasis crystals now slow nearby players instead of freezing them. They still freeze PvE combatants though, so you're not going to get absolutely frozen by standing super far away from like a shatter grenade. It will be better. So it increases the freeze radius though while forming from 1.75 meters to 2.6, so you will get slowed at a farther distance, but you're not going to get instant frozen. Reduce crystal detonation damage versus players by roughly 55%, so shatter dive is going to get exploding those crystals is going to be way less effective. Increase the detonation damage versus PvE combatants by 60%, so nice. PvE is getting a nice buff for that. Increase crystal detonation radius from 6 to 8 meters. All right, so first off, we're going to go over our hunter. I know we are getting long on this video, but like I said, we're going over everything coming on December 7th. So right here, our dodge for our hunter no longer breaks projectile tracking, so you will be able to get hit a lot easier in your dodge. Your marksman dodge, which is your reload, its increased base cooldown time at tier 10 is 11 seconds to 14, so it's going to be 3 seconds slower. And then gambler's dodge is actually changing a lot. At tier 10, it's increasing from 11 to 18 seconds, so a 7-second increase, and its base cooldown is going up from 29 seconds to 38. That's kind of crazy, but that just means way less dodging. All right, so now we're going over the Revenant. Shatter Dive, much less lethal for players due to those Stasis crystal changes that I said up above. Much more lethal versus combatants due to the crystal changes, so those are your PvE combatants, and increased Shatter Dive damage against those PvE combatants by another 100%. Grim Harvest, your aspect, now gives you an extra fragment slot from 2 to 3. So next we have Top Tree Arc Strider. We have Combination Blow, reduce the base cooldown duration from 96 seconds to 15 seconds. So you will be able to use that Combination Blow way more often without having to rely on Gambler's Dodge. Next right here, Bottom Tree Night Stalker, Vanish and Smoke Melee, reduce base cooldown time from 96 seconds to 75, so you will be able to throw your smokes more often in PvP. Next we have Titan, and I know a lot of people are going to be upset about these shoulder charge changes right here, but all shoulder charges no longer one-shot players. The sprint activation time is down from 1.5 seconds to 1.25 seconds. It does have a little bit increased range on those shoulder charges from 5.5 meters to 6.8. The targeting cone is also increased by roughly 10%, so you will be able to kind of work your way back and track a target easier, but it's not going to one-shot them. But we do get increased damage on these PvE combatants by 25%. These right here are the specific changes to the 3 different shoulder charges. So our arc shoulder charge, the AoE damage is down from 90 to 40. Now blinds enemies in the area of hit, so it's kind of like a blinding nade, and its cooldown went from 82 seconds to 90. Our void shoulder charge, again, damage from 90 to 40, and again, increase the cooldown from 82 to 90 seconds. And finally, our solar shoulder charge, direct impact damage goes down from 170 to 120, with again an increase in cooldown time from 82 to 90 seconds. Now some changes to our barricades. Our big towering barricade increased the cooldown from 37 to 40 seconds. Rally barricade, you can pop a little faster with the cooldown to 32 seconds. Next we got some nice changes to the Behemoth. Diamond Lance right here, increased fragment slots from 1 to 3, so you will be able to use more fragments. And now Diamond Lance spawns upon killing PvE combatants with a stasis weapon, killing 3 players with stasis weapons in a single life, killing an enemy with a stasis ability, or shattering an enemy. So that's kind of nice. We're going to get Diamond Lance way more often. Shiver Strike increased the damage while in your super by 50%. And Whisper of Chains increased the damage resistance for PvE combatants from 25 to 40%, so that change is going to give you more damage resistance in PvE. Lastly, we have our bottom tree striker, which is super popular right now, especially in trials. So knockout, melee lunge range, and melee damage bonus now deactivate after a melee kill, so you can't use knockout 4 times in a row. Trample super energy gained from your light attack now decays, so you're going to get less super from just spamming your light attack with that super. Frontal Assault melee, it increased the base cooldown time from 82 seconds to 106, so you got about a 24-second increase on using that Frontal Assault. And finally, your Heavy Slam is getting a reduced radius on bottom tree only from 8 meters to 6. And finally, our last thing to go over here is our Warlock changes. So, uncharged melees. Your uncharged melee reduced melee range from 5.5 meters to 4.5. It now matches your Hunter and Titan. Reduced suppression time after a melee can now melee back to back at the same speed as Titans and Hunters. They had that weird animation where you just couldn't do it, and now they fixed that. Next off, we have Middle Tree Voidwalker, so our handheld Supernova. Reduced damage versus players. Now deals 150 max damage, so it's not a one-shot unless you're hurt. Increased damage versus champions and bosses by 30%, so that's a PvE change. Increased projectile range from 12 meters to 14, so it is going to be able to be thrown a little bit farther, and it also pushes targets away from the Warlock on detonation, so it'll have a nice little blowback to it. Nova Warp has increased damage versus champions and bosses by 30% again, PvE change. Finally, for our Warlock, we have Shadebinder, our stasis changes right here. Winter Wrath, reduce shatter pulse damage versus enemy supers. Must now generally freeze and shatter all supers twice to eliminate. So you're not just absolutely, once you pop, you can use your super and freeze a super and kill it immediately. It'll take a couple of freeze and explosions to kill that super. Your Penumbral Blast, so your melee, increase proximity detonation versus PvE combatants by 100%, and your Bleak Watcher, your turret, is equipped. All stasis grenades charge at the Glacier Grenade rate, so the stasis grenades have different recharges rate, and if you have Bleak Watcher on, they all charge at the Glacial Grenade rate. And that is everything changing in this new update on December 7th in a couple days. It's going to be absolutely nuts. We're going to have so much to do. There's going to be so much changes, almost like a totally different game in PvP. Super excited to see what happens. Let's get to it on December 7th and grind it out together. Hopefully you guys watched at least a little bit of this. I know it is super, super long, but instead of watching 8 to 10 videos on all the changes, you got them all in one spot. So thank you guys so much for watching. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.